narrative about his financial as opposed to how he's playing is frankly laughable. It's just not that way. It's too much on both ends of that for the team. It's too much for Dak to equate his performance stats or one loss here these first 2 or 3 games. Let me get that real clear. It is not impacting that with me at all.
Well, take a look at the numbers. Dak's numbers the last 2 games, big hit. Completion percentage, QBR, they've dropped significantly. It's worth noting the Cowboys' first 3 opponents are currently at combined 2-12. Their 2 most recent opponents are combined 8-2. Back here with the guys. Dan, let's first start talk about this. It felt like we were talking about this all summer long with a bunch of Cowboys, now just one. Where are we with contract negotiations?
Pretty much where we've been. I mean, look, the Cowboys are willing to make him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. His demands have exceeded their offers so far. The performance on the field through the first 5 games hasn't impacted it. There's a perception out there that it's always chaos around the Cowboys, but the reality is different. And that's actually been a fairly disciplined front office here for the last 5+ years at least. And they believe Jerry Jones. I've done a lot of contracts in the NFL. Jerry Jones, like it or not, he's been a GM longer than anybody else in the league. So he knows how this goes. And I think to say that the last 2 games hurt Dak's price is as silly as saying the first 3 games upped Dak's price. So they're going to come to an agreement at some point.
I think Jerry needs to understand, as he's saying this is laughable, it's because of him. Right?
Yes, he likes it.
We came off of a summer where guys named Jalen and Lael and Ezekiel got contracts and Dakota didn't. And that's your quarterback. We know you pay the people that you want to pay. You have shown that. Like, Jerry isn't hoarding money from his players. And so the fact that you haven't paid Dak Prescott makes us pay attention to every game. We talk about every game because everyone's trying to figure out how will you guys find a number and what are you waiting on to find it?
So saying that he should be among the highest paid quarterbacks in the league is slightly disrespectful because he should be the highest paid quarterback in the league because that's how we've been doing this. And you look at the last 2 guys who became the highest paid were Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. They are also 3-2, and I do believe at this point in the season, both have worse QBRs. I think Jared Goff is leading the league in interceptions. Yeah. They both have worse QBRs than Dak Prescott. So while I'm not going to go out there and say Dak Prescott is the best quarterback in the league, the way that we have done things in this league is the next man up gets the highest paid contract, and I don't understand why all of a sudden Jerry Jones is acting like that's not the rule, and not all of us, many of us are like, yeah, don't pay him. Why now?
It's just in a negotiation. I mean, that's what this is. So he's got a little leverage, too, because if they get through the year and there's no deal, they can franchise him at a number that's far less than the average of what he's looking for. So it's not crazy.
We're also talking about a league, too, where every head coach is tied with the quarterback, and the quarterback's tied to the head coach, right? Brady, Belichick. You can't say Belichick without Brady. Can't say Brady without Belichick here. And we have a coach in Jason Garrett in his final year. How much is this negotiation tied into the future of Jason Garrett with Dak?
Well, I think we've seen situations, if you're Sean McVay, you weren't looking at Jared Goff in his first year and saying to yourself, I can't wait to work with this young man. And so the guy that you're going to have to get is going to have to understand that Dak Prescott is your quarterback. And that has happened in many situations with very good players at that position. And we know for the most part, unless you are a Bill Belichick, maybe a Mike Tomlin, you won't outlast your franchise guy unless you continue to win. And so whatever guy that is picked for this job is going to have to love Dak Prescott and coach with him. But what I do think we're realizing is it's probably not Kellen Moore.
Yeah, I appreciate that you asked that question, but it's a stupid question.
Why?
Because, I mean, this is an awesome situation, and Dak Prescott is a well above average quarterback. Any coach that is looking for a job in NFL, you think about the type of jobs that open up in NFL, any coach that is looking for a job in NFL and sees this and they're unexcited about this opportunity, you don't deserve to be a coach in the NFL. And if you can't get in and make something out of Dak Prescott, you don't deserve to be a coach in the NFL. Anyone who complains like, no, I want to pick my own guy. This isn't the Cardinals situation that you're walking into. This is a Cowboy situation that has Pro Bowlers on both sides of the roster.
By the way, could still be Garrett. I mean, like, he's not.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, I like Jason Garrett. I'm the only one. The last
could
one.
be the guy at Oklahoma right now, coaching quarterbacks, right?
Could be.
By the way, that nice setup there where you compliment me. Like I like that you got dressed up, but this is ugly. How about that? All right, Dominic?
My bad.
Let's talk about
Whoa.
quarterbacks tied to coaches, and of course, you can say that about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Bears fans, look away. You don't want to be reminded. This is Mahomes versus Deshaun Watson. Mahomes comes in hobbling, left ankle stepped on by one of his linemen in that loss to the Colts. Mahomes' rushing game didn't really help as well. Indy outgaining KC 180-36 on the ground and handling the Chiefs their first loss of the season. Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson, he lit up the Falcons. You could say a lot of teams do that, but his numbers were outstanding. 28 of 33, 426 in the air, and 5 touchdown passes. Let's bring in Jeremy Fowler live from Chiefs camp. Jeremy, so Mahomes, he tweaked that ankle last Sunday in that loss to the Colts. What's the latest with this injury?
Well, Kevin, here's what I'm hearing. The Chiefs do not consider this a major injury at all. They believe that this is something that they can work throughout the week, but it's going to be a pain tolerance thing. Mahomes certainly felt when that 300-pounder stepped on that already injured ankle, but really it's just an ankle tweak, and so they're going to have to manage him. They practice later today. Here's the thing, though, Kevin. I'm told from a source close to Mahomes absolutely hates to miss a single snap of practice. He's known for it, and so he very well could be on the field later today when he could get a rest day because of the ankle.
All right, now Mahomes will face Deshaun Watson this weekend. They were drafted 2 picks apart. Mahomes went first, then you saw what happened afterwards with Watson. What's the Chiefs' perspective on their decision?
Patrick Mahomes, no matter what. It's like that movie Draft Day with Vontae Mack, because they went into that process locked in on Mahomes. I spoke to a source that said as early as January of that draft year, they knew Mahomes was their top quarterback. Now, they did their recon work on everybody. They loved Deshaun Watson, believed that he had a chance to be a superstar. They just like Mahomes better. So if it came down to a pick between the two, they were always going to go with the guy they have now.
Jeremy Fowler reporting from the Chiefs as we get set for maybe the marquee matchup of the weekend and you could say of the future. Let's bring back the guys here and we talk about this because, again, there was a rich time here where it was always every year Brady versus Manning, right? Do you feel that this is going to be the next Brady versus Manning matchup?
To me, it is. And it looks different, right? It's a little more exciting. It's moved into the new age. It's moved into quarterbacks that can move around and create plays for themselves. And we're looking at 2 dudes who are showing they don't necessarily need a lot of things around them to be efficient at this position and to be dynamic because they just are. When you look at what these 2 players have brought to the NFL and the time that the game is changing, they are the leaders of that new school, the leaders of that new movement. And I'm excited to see this game. You have Patrick Mahomes coming off of an injury. Now we get to see him deal with adversity against Deshaun Watson, who's coming off a perfect passer rating after being down a week. This is the type of game you need to see if you want to watch these young players go at it.
I can't wait for this game, and I just feel fortunate that NFL offensive minds have finally caught up to the ability of these athletes. Maybe there's nobody like Mahomes or Watson in the past, but there's a real chance that we've missed out on a lot of athletes because of the rigid thinking of NFL coaches. They finally caught up. That's why Bill O'Brien still has a job.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson saved that man's job because he is that good.
No, Ryan Pace did.
Right?
Right, because he took the other guy.
He took the other guy.
That's fair.
What happened was Bill O'Brien would have got Trubisky.
That's why Bears
and he'd be
fans,
in the
I
same
said,
place.
we're sorry, look away.
he'd be home.
What's the status here of Tyreek Hill coming into a game like
They're hoping he can practice a little bit more this week, and if he does, then that moves him closer to being on the field. They're being careful with him, obviously. They're winning games without him, not last week notwithstanding. But, yeah, they're hoping that they see something in practice this week that at least lets them establish a timetable for when they'll have him back. I think it's far-fetched to think he plays this week.
Well, it would be a huge addition, right?
Tyreek Hill is so fast and so dangerous that you can't man cover him, and that changes this team. They're a great offense without him, but you add him in there, they're terrifying.
He needs help, though, Mahomes. When you lose Hill, you lose Watkins, you don't have a
disrespect
backfield that's
Patrick
steady,
Mahomes.
right? Well, I'm just
Patrick
saying
Mahomes don't need nothing but a damn football. That's all he needs.
He watched Sunday night. He needs
don't
some
need
help.
those.
He doesn't need 2 good
help,
ankles.
by the way.
Good ankles.
Football.
All right, let's talk about
Maybe
the
a
Steelers in
tackle.
this situation. All right, Mason Rudolph seemed like he'd be out for a while, Dan, after taking this devastating hit over the weekend. What are you hearing about his status?
Look, he was back in the building yesterday. He was released from the hospital Sunday, and everybody says he's doing well. he's in the concussion protocol. And what that means is if he passes step 1, step 2, through step 5, it's not impossible that he plays Sunday against the Chargers. I'm not saying he will, I'm not saying he won't, but it's not crazy. And the key thing people have to understand, it's not about what the hit looked like or what he looked like getting off the field. It's about, does he meet the requirements for getting through the concussion protocol by the end of the week? And
I get
why
that.
I hear it.
But we're a species that depends a lot on visual things,
yes.
especially watching football on the wows, right? And when you saw that hit, you paused for a second because you thought of the worst.
Yeah, I had never watched it or seen a hit like that. And I've been in some really violent games. I was on the field when Kevin Everett was paralyzed. So, I've been involved. I've never seen a hit like this where the thoughts, the worst thoughts went through my mind at that moment. And we saw Juju's reaction to it. It made the worst thoughts go through my mind. And while we don't understand everything about concussions, I believe the research suggests that after you have one, you're more prone to have one.
Correct.
So in a close proximity. So maybe he passed the protocol, but I still think it's dangerous, not just for Mason Rudolph, but it's dangerous for the business of football to put a guy back out there after having that image in all of our head where he is wobbling off the field. If something happens and he gets hit, and he goes down, that's bad for everybody, including the Steelers, the whole league.
Well, listen, I think what happens is when you watch from the outside, we all have big eyes and marshmallow hearts. And you can't do that. I've been in this situation. I've been in situations with concussions, and I understand the protocol. And Dan said in the meeting this morning, it's ever evolving because it's not a perfect science.
Right.
And so if Mason Rudolph can go through these things, if he can pass each step, pass each test, I believe he has an opportunity to play because that's what we all come, and that's the reasons that we are here.
All right, what's the union stance here, Dan?
Well, they're upset that he had to walk off the field, that there wasn't a cart because the cart malfunctioned, and obviously, they took the face mask off. It looks really bad. The guy couldn't walk. So the league has responded saying they ruled out a spinal injury. If the cart had been necessary, they had another cart they could have brought over. So, this is a case where the league and the union very often will look into these situations and make sure the protocol was followed. And there are investigations of this type and queries of this type all the time. And I'm sure they'll continue to.
If they had another cart, they should have brought it out there and put him on there.
So I was there. I was on the sideline. So they walked him to a tunnel, and then there was another cart sitting there for him to go on. Then he took off his helmet, and he seemed. But again.
There's been no reports that anything was wrong with his leg. So we are left to assume that he was hit so hard in his brain that he could not walk straight. And someone determined that it was a good idea to let him walk up the field. That's bad. I don't care how you slice it.
All right, we'll see how this develops and plays out as the week continues as the Steelers face the Chargers. Let's go to the NBA. More fallout from Rockets GM Daryl Morey's tweet in support of anti-government protesters in Hong Kong. Wednesday in Shanghai, an NBA Cares event involving the Lakers was canceled hours before it was scheduled to start. The NBA said it was not their decision to cancel the event. Since then, NBA signage has been removed at events promoting Thursday's game between the Lakers and the Nets. For much more on this story, Rachel Nichols joins us from China. And Rachel, good morning to you first off. What's the latest there from Shanghai?
Yeah, you mentioned the signage. So right across from the Player Hotel was a 25-story banner that featured Anthony Davis's face, LeBron James' face, Kyrie Irving's face, advertising this game. And all day today, there was a lone construction worker on a cherry picker who was ripping it off of the building. So the players naturally have a lot of questions. Is this game still going to happen on Thursday? They had the chance to meet with Adam Silver during the day today. They asked him that question. He told them that the game is going to go forward as of now. That's the NBA's plan, although they're very dependent on the Chinese government for that to happen. I'm also told there was some frustration in the room of players being put in an unfair position. They feel like they've been asked to do media and answer questions. They can't really answer. In fact, media availability here today was postponed. We'll have to find out if we ever hear from the players here in China. In the United States, however, we are starting to hear from players talk about this. This is what James Harden had to say today.
Yeah, we all have freedom of speech. That's the world we live in. Everybody should, how they feel and their thought process, be able to speak it. Obviously some people are going to feel some type of way, some people are going to agree. That's just the world we live in. I'm here for Adam Silver.
Harden has been supportive, as you heard there, of Adam Silver. He's also been supportive of the Chinese fans. And that's the other thing that the players here right now are experiencing. When they've been to China on individual trips with their sneaker company, they normally get a pretty wild reception. It's one of the most fun things for NBA players coming over to this part of the world. That hasn't been the case here because of all of the controversy with the government. What would usually be hundreds, maybe even 1,000 fans gathering to see them get off the bus or go to certain events has turned into just a much more thin crowd, dozens of fans maybe, Kevin. And in fact, those fans, while they're eager to come out and see these players, they don't want people to really know it. There were some fans that greeted the Lakers bus last night, but as soon as NBA entertainment cameras came over to show them being excited about the Lakers, we saw a bunch of fans hide their faces because they didn't want to be on record supporting the NBA. That is a huge change from what we've seen over here in the past.
Rachel Nichols giving us great perspective over at Shanghai as we will continue to follow this developing story throughout the day on ESPN.